Diana, today just is emblematic of what currently it feels like the administration's focus on M&A, particularly within technology. We shouldn't be surprised. Lina Khan has steered us this direction. But what do you make of the doubling down from the FTC at the moment?
I think this is very much in keeping with the chair's promises and the Assistant Attorney General's promises to really take a hard look at the digital sector. And for good reason. You know, the digital sector has grown dramatically in the last 20 years. They are coming off an acquisition spree that peaked in about 2014. It is absolutely a growth by acquisition model as opposed to a do-it-yourself model. It's sort of the buy or build question. So with the digital business ecosystems, that is the name of the game. It is to acquire and grow largely through acquisition. And both the Microsoft Activision and the Meta Within are really, really good leading examples of this growth by acquisition strategy and the competition problems that they raise because they are very large companies with dominant positions.
Diana, that word, competition, that's the bit that I think consumers, investors struggle to understand, or at least struggle to sympathize with the FTC with, right? Is the FTC doing this because it wants to foster competition? In other words, have many players in the metaverse, which, let's be honest, isn't a real thing yet, or they want to prevent monopolies? Or is it the same idea?
I think they're the same idea, right? The antitrust laws in the United States are designed to promote and preserve and protect competition for the benefit of consumers and workers and smaller businesses that might be trying to get a foothold in markets or expand in markets. Of course, that rationale, which is very consumer-facing and worker-facing and smaller business-facing, can run up against rationales for why companies might think they need to be bigger to innovate more or innovate more quickly and be more dynamic to ultimately bring new products to market and serve consumer demand. So there is a very strong tension there. But in the digital sector, I think the balances have tipped, as we've seen in these two cases, but also the DOJ's case in Google, the FTC's case in Facebook, and several state cases that there is a significant dominance problem in some of the leading digital tech players, and that competition really needs to be scrutinized very carefully. And M&A, of course, is one of the leading ways that these companies grow.
Diana, do you have any sympathy for Within in this instance with Meta and the startup Within? You know, one thing we've learned is, of course, that the metaverse is a nascent idea. It needs capital, you know, access to talent to grow and to continue. Are you worried that there will be an over-stifling of innovation if bigger tech companies aren't allowed to go out and acquire smaller companies?
So that's a really good question, and it comes up a lot in public discourse. What is the better pathway to innovation? Is it to encourage competition by smaller rivals, independent market players, and have them grow into significant market players that could then challenge these incumbent companies, right, the large digital techs? Or is it, and we do that through promoting antitrust enforcement, or is it to provide a pipeline or a feed of these startups and smaller companies into the big digital ecosystems, knowing that they will be acquired and claiming that somehow will increase the ability of companies to increase innovation? There's a real tension there. But I think the balances have tipped. And for example, in the Meta Within case, the purchase of Within, which has this leading VR fitness app, Supernatural, takes out a really important source of competition in a market that already does not have very much competition. So we worry about that when you eliminate competition in an already concentrated market. In the Microsoft Activision case, that acquisition also eliminates important competition on the outside of a digital business ecosystem. And we worry about those acquisitions when there isn't already a lot of competition. So if you're in the camp where competition serves the interests of innovation, or in the other camp, which is we need big companies to acquire smaller companies to continue to innovate, that really frames out the debate.
It's also an interesting debate to be having as we head towards basically a real pullback already upon us in terms of VC funding, a real pullback in terms of the free money that we were all so used to. And I'm wondering, what ways do we tend to see big companies that are sitting on a ton of cash be able to foster innovation in the space they want to see grow if it isn't just by trying to do deals and actually acquire them outright?
Right. Very good question. And again, the growth by acquisition model really serves as a funnel for a lot of the free cash that companies have. But I think you have to look a little bit deeper at the culture of the companies, at the way the digital ecosystems are structured with a platform, with lots of cloud technology, where we've seen lots of acquisitions in the last many years, but also these constellations of apps that exist in the ecosystem. That's a complex business model, and it's the value proposition, and it's really supercharged. So if you have market power in a platform or in cloud technology, all of those pieces of the ecosystem work together where market power can be leveraged throughout the ecosystem. And so that complicates the innovation story as well. And in fact, my supercharge incentives to buy smaller rivals, because by buying a new application like gaming content or VR app content, fitness app content, you're able then to connect that content to the platform, a platform, and to supercharge it with value with cloud technology. So it's a very complex business proposition. It's a value proposition, but also poses really complicated problems for antitrust enforcers in crafting complaints. But the ultimate concern, I'm sure, as you know, is that all of this gets locked up in a single ecosystem, which makes it very difficult for smaller rivals to get into those markets.